All right, we're back. We're going to be looking at finishing up on the spider today and doing a few other things. And also making the monsters so they hurt you maybe, perhaps. But if I run the game now, what we're looking at is the left-right monsters, up-down monsters. Those work, but the spider monster isn't quite right. And let me show you why. Here's our spider. The way I have it set up is it looks like it's working correctly, right? But if I set the spider up a little bit different way, let me show you what that looks like. The spider's going to get really confused in certain situations. For example, let's go here. How would I get this to actually fail? Yeah, let's put the spider up here. And I think the spider will get stuck. No, maybe not. No, that still will work. Let me. I'm trying to get the spider so it gets stuck, so you can see the behavior. But if I can't get this to work, I guess it's not important. I want it to go to the right. It's always going down. One more time. Pick right. Come on, pick right. There it is. Okay, so watch the spider. I'm thinking it'll get stuck right here. It turns to the left. Nope. Didn't get stuck. Boy, it's smart. Oh, that was weird. Okay, so I'm just happening to be lucking out, but the spider isn't working quite right yet because it can't handle every situation. Okay. Right now, all we do is if we hit a wall, we turn left, which as an algorithm for getting out of a maze, say you're stuck in a maze and there's no lights and you get out of a maze, there's this rule called the left-hand rule. If you keep your left hand on the wall, eventually you'll find every part of the maze and you can get out. So if you're ever in a maze in the dark and you can't see, just keep your left hand on the wall and you can get out of the maze. It's a real easy way to get out of mazes. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing here. We hit the wall. We say, okay, there's no wall to my left perhaps, so I'm going to turn. And if there's nothing in the way, then I'm just going to keep going to the left, right? So I do that. But what if there is something in the way? Okay, what if there is another wall there? We can't go that way, so we have to turn around. Okay, so we've hit the wall forward. We've turned left once. We try to go that way. We can't. So now we have to turn around 180 degrees to go to the right, I guess. So let's put in an else statement here. So where's else? I guess we'll have to type it in, else. This is what you do if there is a wall in the way. Okay? You say else. Put the else part on the bottom of this if statement. It's important to be at the bottom there. In the case that there is a wall in the way you're going, now we need to turn around. Okay? So we need to set our direction 180 degrees from where we the direction we're going right now. So if I say direction, yeah. Oh yeah, good question. Oh, that's a really good question actually. Since you're exiting, which is not something you're supposed to do, you're supposed to, in most programming languages, when you have a function like this, you're only supposed to have one exit because it makes it complex. But since we are exiting, do we actually need the else? Because we just exited if this were true. So I suppose that's true. You don't need the else. That's a good point. Very good. Because you just bailed right there. You're not going to do anything more. So no else is needed. So you get rid of the else. But now we have to ask another, or we need to turn around. So we're setting our direction. So we say set direction. And we'll put that on the bottom of this as well. And now it's at the same level. So we want to turn around. Now, to turn around, we can turn to the left or we can turn to the right. Does it really matter which way? Well, if we want to turn to the left, we would add 180 degrees. But if we want to turn to the right, we want to subtract 180 degrees. Will you still end up going in the same direction? The answer is yes. So it doesn't matter. So I just say 180. and then I say relative. So whatever direction I'm going now, I'm going to turn around because I've turned 90 degrees to the left. There's a wall there, so now I know, okay, I can't go to my right. I can't go forward. I have to go, I got to check behind me now. So I turn around, and then I have to check, right? So I would click on this one and copy it. So the way you copy it is you click on it and then say Control-C. And then the problem is when you Control-V something in this thing, I'm just not sure where it'll put it. It just puts it in. Oh, see how it also picked up the exit thing? I guess we want that in this case. So, yeah. And we ask the exact same question. Is there a wall in front of us? If there's not a wall in front of us, then we're going to continue to go that way. Okay? So we just say exit. What does this look like kind of in smaller so you can see the whole thing? We turn right. We check to see if there's nothing in the way. If there isn't, we just leave because we can go that way. But if we can't go that way, then we turn around and we check to see if we can go that way. And if we can't go that way, we just go that way. But otherwise, well, here's our problem, right? You can't go forward. You can't go left. You can't go right. So the only way to go then is back the way you came. Okay. So here I would set direction again. Put this on the bottom right here. Puts it after that exit. And instead of turning left, this time we're turning right. So to turn right, you say negative 90 relative. Now I'm not going to check to see if there's anything in the way. Why am I not checking to see if anything's in the way? I did that on all the other ones. Yeah, I just came that way, so I already know that there isn't a wall there. That's the way I came. Now if you really want to confuse spiders, and you do generally because I don't like spiders, how would you really confuse the spider? Let me show you how. Well, let's just see if this works. Okay, so there's our spider. We're trying to see if our spider turns correctly. It looks like it does. Doesn't hurt us yet. See how we're not getting hurt. Spider hits the wall, turns left, can't go that way, turns left, and then it gets in this loop. Okay, so it's kind of working. This didn't seem like a lot different than before, but it is kind of working. Right? Okay, so that looks fine. But what if we were evil, and we are evil? So we're going to do something mean to the spider. So I'm going to put the spider in a box. So maybe here, just for fun. And I'm wondering what the spider's going to do. So here, obviously the spider can't go back the way it came because there is no way it came. It's just in a box. What's your expectation of the behavior of the spider? Will he get stuck or will he spin around in circles? I think he'll spin around in circles. That's what I'm thinking. But you're really messing with the spider's head. Yeah, see it? Poor spider. He keeps flipping around. It looks like 4 spiders all in one place. So yeah, this is really mean to spiders. And it's a spider, so it's okay to be really mean to it. So don't do this with your spiders. You get weird stuff like that happening. Okay. But if you like to torture spiders, yeah, maybe you do that. Oh. So we've got our monsters kind of working. But the problem is our monsters don't do anything to us. When we get hit by a monster, we're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. We got hit by a monster, but we don't do anything. Usually monsters should hurt you, right? So how do you make monsters hurt you? Yeah, what do you think? Oh, okay. I'll be over in a second. Well, how do you get hurt in a game typically? What's one of the things you lose when you get hit by a monster? Your life, right? Your progress. What else might you lose? Your money, anything you collected, your self-respect, yeah. Now you typically lose the life, right? You keep track of lives. We haven't done lives yet, right? So in order for these monsters to do bad things to us, we kind of have to keep track of lives, right? So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to keep track of lives. And then once we can keep track of lives, then we can see when lives go away. So now let's talk about lives then. How do you track lives in GameMaker? Now in the old version of GameMaker, they used to have a lives variable. In fact, they still have this lives variable. But if you read the documentation on it, they say, don't use this variable because it's bad. Global variables are generally bad, and they're frowned upon by the wider programming community because they cause lots of problems when it comes to debugging. I could go into a 2-hour discussion of why global variables are bad, but I don't think we want that. So just maybe you have to trust me on this one. Global variables are bad. Okay, so don't use them. So they leave them in the game for backward compatibility, but they don't want you to use the global lives variable. They'd rather have an object have lives. The problem is our Explorer is going to get destroyed by the monsters. So if you put it in the Explorer object, we're going to lose track of lives, right? So then, okay, well, where else can I put it? Can I put it in the door? Well, the door goes away. How about the exit sign? Well, the exit sign goes away at the end of the level, and then you go to the next room. We need something that's going to take care of the lives that's not going to go away, not going to go poof. Problem is we don't have an object like that. You know, what we need is a way to control the game. We need a game controller. Now the game controller object doesn't need a sprite. It's invisible, but it's going to help us control our game. So that's what we're going to add right now is a controller. And we'll do this on all the rest of the games that we have, because you need something that's going to be there all the time, but just controls things like lives or health or what's the other thing? There's another thing I can't remember. But you right-click and you say create object, and we're going to call this one obj, lowercase obj underscore controller. Okay? It's rare that you make a game that doesn't have a controller in it. This helps control your game, make it work. Okay? Does it need a sprite? Strangely enough, it doesn't, because you're never going to see it. Okay? So we're making a controller. Now the first thing the controller should do is keep track of lives. So we're going to do that. We're going to add a create event to the controller. Add a create event. What should this create event do? We've got controller. We have a create event. What should it do? We're going to type in lives here. Here where it says set lives, we're going to set lives to 0. Or actually, should it be 0? No, it should be 3. You start with 3 lives. Now don't click on relative here, because if you do, it'll think lives already exist and try to add 3 to it, and it will crash your game. Okay? This is the quickest way to crash your game in GameMaker is to create a variable and then add to it relatively. Okay? We want to start out with 3 lives. Now, do you actually get 3 lives in the game? Really? How many lives do you get in a game? You ever try to sit and figure this out? It's kind of confusing. You actually have 4 lives, right? Because you have this life, the one you currently have, and then you have 3 more. So you actually have 4 lives, strangely. Because you keep forgetting to count, oh yeah, I guess this life counts as well. So I get 4 lives, even though we say 3 here. Okay? So great, we have 3 lives. But the problem is now we can't see it. We can't see the lives. So we need a way to be able to see how many lives we have. Okay? So what do? Well, what we can do is we can create a live picture sprite. So what are we going to use for lives? Well, most games use like little hearts, I guess. So we could use a heart maybe. Let's see if we have that sprite. So I'm going to create that sprite. I'm going to go out and look in our little sprite library to see if we have a little heart anywhere. There's an apple heart. I'm looking for a heart. Heart. H-G-H-I. Yeah, there it is. Item life. There's a little heart thing right there. Okay. So let's use that one for our lives. And we'll just make it the same size as all our other sprites. Okay. So that's going to be our life sprite. Now this isn't an object in the game. This is just a picture we're going to use in the game to show us how many lives we have. Yeah, question? So now we want to show our life picture to show us how much lives we have. We want to rename our sprite, though, to sprite live, or life, maybe. I guess that's singular. So we got this sprite life. Where do we want to put it? Well, we want to put it in the draw event of the controller. And the question is, draw event of the controller doesn't have a sprite. We're not going to draw it. But even though we're not drawing it, it'll still go through its own draw event. So we're going to take advantage of that. So here in the controller then, go back to the controller. We got to make sure the controller is checked as visible. I know it doesn't have a sprite and you're not going to see it, but it does need to be checked as visible for this to work. Because if it's not visible, it's not going to draw it. So instead of drawing the controller, what we're going to use is we're going to trick the computer into drawing our life pictures. So let's do that. Now the only time you can draw is in the draw event. And this is kind of a GUI type thing. What's GUI? That's the graphic user interface. This is part of the way you control the game rather than the game itself. So you want to go to the object controller and create a draw GUI event. That one. What's cool about draw GUI is it gets drawn last, typically. And then we say life or live again, okay? And notice there's some brown ones here. Draw health bar, draw health, draw instance lives. There we go. That's what we want. So drag that in to your draw GUI event. What sprite do we want to use to draw our lives with? And we want to use our life sprite. So we're choosing that. And we want the life sprites to stack going horizontally along the top of our room. So we're going to keep it at horizontal. And then where do we want it to be? And we're just saying the top left corner of the screen. That sounds fine. Do we have any, is that in the room? And the answer is no. It's not really in the room. It'll be on top of the wall. That's our hope. So if we play the game, you'll note that, strangely, there are no life sprites, even though we set lives to 3. Very, very, very frustrating. So I'm running the game to show you that this doesn't do anything, right? So why would I show you that? It's because I do this all the time. I make a controller, but then I forget to put it in the room, so it's not controlling anything. The controller has to be in the room in order to control the room. So I'll go to my room, and I'll make sure to drag the controller somewhere in the room. Now you'll note that the controller doesn't have a picture associated with it because you can't see it. But there's a little question mark. If I zoom in, you can see there's a little question mark there. If you hover over it, at least in the old version of GameMaker, it'll tell you over here on the left that, hey, that's the controller. Okay? So now that the controller's in the room, it's going to control things. Okay? So let's try it. And what our hope is we'll see 3 lives up in the top left corner. Let's see. Please work. Yeah, so there's our lives. See there? So now we can see our lives. Now that we can see them, we can test to see if our monsters take a life away from us. And we find that no. We are invincible. Okay? We don't lose a life yet. Okay? But at least we can draw it. That's good. Okay, so but now we have a problem because we say, well, what should take away a life from you? And that's like, well, when you collide with the skeleton or the ghost or the spider, we want to lose a life. So that means you have to put a collision event between the explorer and each of those things that may take a life away from the explorer. I don't want to have to do that because I guess I'm lazy. So how do I do it so I only have to check for it once? And the answer is we're going to make a parent object called monster, okay, a generic monster. And we're going to make the ghost and the skeleton and the spider children of this generic monster. So just like the controller, you don't need a sprite for this because you're never going to make a generic monster that has no sprite. So we click and we say create object. And the only reason this object exists is so that we can group the other monsters underneath it. So we say monster, object monster. It doesn't have a sprite, just like the controller. But what it does have is children. Yeah, so if we want to add the children, we can do it from here. Which children should be considered children of monster? And the answer is our three monsters: the ghost monster, the skeleton monster, and the spider monster. Okay, all of those will be considered children of monsters, and because they're children of monsters, they'll be considered as monsters themselves. Okay, they're just different kinds of monsters, different types of monsters. But then you might ask yourself, well, why should I do this? This is dumb. And the answer is, well, now we can say, and save ourselves a little bit of time, we can say when the Object Explorer, so we click on Object Explorer, collides with a monster, you don't have to do them separately. You can do them all together as a group. You just say Object Monster, because in GameMaker language, or GameMaker, anything that's a child of something is considered to be that something. You can say it this way: a skeleton is a monster. A ghost is a monster. A spider is a monster. They're all monsters. They're just different kinds. So when you collide with any of those types of monsters, we need to lose our life. Okay, so how do we lose a life? Well, so we type in lives again. And here we say set lives. So set lives. This time we want to take a life away. So we say -1. And we say relative. When you add -1 to something, that's equivalent to subtracting 1 from something, right? So we just took away a life. Let's see if that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna get run over by a monster. I think if I just leave my game on, it might happen automatically. We'll see. Okay, so here, okay, so watch my lives. Oof, nothing. That didn't work. I'm surprised. Nothing. I'm not losing lives. That's not good. Yeah, so I don't have a clue why this isn't working. This is interesting. Okay, so I'm not losing lives. Did we take lives away? We did, right? There's our collision event with the monster. We're colliding. Are we using the right life variable? Let me look at that. So if I convert this to, if I just go live preview, I can actually see the code behind the scenes. And notice there's this one called DND lives. And we're subtracting 1 from it. But that's what it's called here, okay? So my hope is that when we create the lives variable, that's what it's called there as well. Oh, I know what's going on. Oh, I get it. Yeah, so light finally goes off. The reason I'm confused is there used to be only one life variable. And it was for the whole game. It was global. But now they have live variables for each object in the game. So that means the Explorer has a life variable, the controller has a life variable, anything that's an object has a life variable. Yeah, so you got to go over here and say, see this little triangle thing? We don't want to set the lives in the Explorer because we don't care about that one. The live we care about is the one in the controller. That's the one we're drawing. So that should be the one we're changing. Okay. So make sure to set that object controller in there, and then watch what happens when I lose a life. It may not be what you expect. Okay. Okay, so I go, and I'm going to go lose my life. Here we go. And I lose all my lives. Wait a second. It only touched me once. Now I'm dead. The game's over, right? Why did it do that? Well, it did that because we didn't get rid of the explorer. In fact, we didn't restart the level. So what happens is the monster keeps colliding with the explorer, and so it takes another life away. And then the next frame, it still sees the monster colliding with the explorer, so it takes another life away, and now you've lost all 3 of your lives. Okay, that's not really fair. What should happen when you run out of lives? Well, we didn't tell it. We didn't tell it to do anything yet. So here, we've collided. A monster's collided with us. We've lost our lives. We better check to see if we have any lives left. Okay. So we take 1 life away, and then we have to ask ourselves a question. This one, if lives. Okay. If lives. If lives is less than or equal to 0. Now I say less than or equal to because I'm trying to be really careful here. Say for some reason you lose 2 lives and you were at 1 life, now you have -1 life and you skipped over the 0, then it'll keep playing. So I'm trying to be really careful here and say anything 0 or less than, I want to tell them that their game is over, right? So you would say, something like game over. How do we tell them that? Well, this is where we need a way to put something on the screen. Now, if I were going to make this cross-platform, I want this game to work both in Windows and Linux and on Mac OS and on a phone. You wouldn't do it this way, but we know that all of our games are all going to be on the PC. That's our target platform. We can break some rules, so we're going to break some rules. So here we say code, I guess. And we're going to say execute code. And here we're going to have to drop down into GameMaker language. Why is this? Because we're using a part of GameMaker language or a command in GameMaker language that they really don't want you to use. Okay. Let me get my screen sorted out. Hang on a second. Okay, so here we're actually dropping down into GameMaker language. This is really the language that your game runs behind the scenes. It looks like it's doing all this graphic stuff, but really all of this graphic stuff gets translated into GameMaker language. The problem is they got rid of the thing that puts up a little dialog that says you lose, so we're going to have to do this ourselves. So we want to say show message. Okay. They really, really don't want you to use show message because they want to make this cross-platform. But there's no easy way that I can tell to put a message on the screen other than this way. So you say, sorry, you lost. You lost. You lost. And then they respond to that, and then what we wanted to do after they respond to that is we want to restart the game. Now this execute code box is huge. I'm going to zoom out a bit. You can see how big it is, right? We only have 1 line of code. We can actually squash this down a bit. And maybe make it a little bit smaller. Just so you can see the code there. Okay, so we just told them that you've lost. Let's see if we get that. If we get that one. Now remember, we still have the problem where the monster keeps colliding with us because we're still there and they're still colliding, and so we lose all our lives. So here we go. It says, sorry, you lost. Notice it didn't even get a choice, didn't get a chance to redraw it. But it sees we have 0 lives. What should happen here? Well, one of the things has to get destroyed, right? Either the monster or the player. What you can do is you can see how it keeps colliding and it keeps colliding and keeps colliding. So we still get the message and then finally it goes away. So we lose the game, but then we need to restart the game. Okay? No, wait. You have to ask yourself, when you lose all your lives, do you restart the level or do you restart the game? And usually it's the game, but sometimes you have like these groups of levels and stuff. But typically it's restart game. Okay. So we would say here then, restart. Here's the restart game. Okay. So you do that next. You've told them they're a loser. Don't call them a loser. That would be mean. But you say, hey, you're a loser. And then you restart the game. That's good. Game restarts. You get 3 lives. Everyone's happy. What should happen if you've lost a life, though? Say it's not less than or equal to 0. You've lost a life, but you still have some lives left. What should happen? Well, we have to ask ourselves that question. So drag on the else part here and put it on the bottom of the if over here. Okay, so now you say, okay, I lost a life, but I still have some lives left. What should happen? Well, I should probably restart the room, right? That would make sense. So let's see if there's a restart room thing. Here, restart room. Okay, so we're restarting a room. Oh, I put it in the wrong place though. It has to be controlled by the else. So put it to the right side of the else, over here. So you have this red line. Okay. So we just restart the room. Will we lose all our lives? I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's see what happens. Our hope is that when we restart the room, we'll stop losing lives, and then we'll have 2 lives left instead of 3. So here, the ghost hits me. Boink. Boy, I lost all my lives already. Okay, so we have to get rid of something. We have to make something disappear. So we have to, what I would say is, let's get rid of the ghost. Okay, I don't like getting rid of the explorer, even though we're restarting. So here we'll say destroy. Yeah, that one. What are we destroying? Well, we'll put it first. We don't want to destroy the controller or the explorer. So instead what we do is we destroy the monster. Notice I said monster, not the ghost. Because we want this to work on all monsters, right? So just destroy the monster. Okay. Oh, that's even worse. No, that's not quite right. What do we want to destroy? We want to destroy the other thing. Okay. If you choose monster, then it will destroy all the monsters, which, since you're restarting the room, maybe it's not such a big deal. But it's kind of doing too much work. So don't choose monster, choose other. Okay? Whatever the explorer collided with, that's what you want to get rid of. And then now I don't think you'll lose all your lives, and then you won't see that message pop up when it shouldn't. Let's see. Okay, so here now I'm using the monster here. Boink. Still. I did not expect that. Why? We're in the collision event. We're getting rid of the other thing. It should not be losing all our lives. Unless I have the thing wrong. It did restart the level. I'm going to try a different monster and see if I get the same result. Yeah, I shouldn't see that unless I've lost all my lives. Why is that not working? So for some reason my lives are going to 0. Oh, here's our problem. Remember here when we were setting the lives, I said on the controller. But remember, each object has its own lives variable. So I forgot to set that here. It's looking at the lives on self, and I don't have any lives on the Explorer. It's on the controller. So you have to also, anytime you talk about lives, you've got to make sure you get the right object. Okay. Now I think it'll work this time. So here it should restart the room. It did. But I still have 3 lives. How come? I'm not losing lives. Anybody know why? Yeah, because every time I restart the room, I recreate the controller, right? And the controller, what's the first thing the controller does? Well, the controller, when it's created, it sets slice to 3. So it just overwrote that you lost a life. So this is not a really good event to be setting lives in. Create is a bad one, in fact. So we want to change this one. So right-click on the, you can actually do this. You can right-click on the event and say, change event. And we only want to do this live thing, not at the creation type, but only when the game is starting. So you say game start. That way, when you come back to this room and recreate the room, it's not going to reset the lives to 3. Okay. That only happens at the start of the game. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so here we go. Boom. I just lost all my lives. I have no lives left, and then I'm dead. Okay. So, why did I lose all my lives? Bing, they're all gone. Okay. Well, the problem is, even though we're not calling it a create event, the controller is still getting destroyed and being recreated. So we've just lost our lives variable inside the controller. Even though we're not resetting it, we have like a different life control, or a different controller. Yeah. Yeah, I just right-clicked on it and said change event. Oh, let me get the right thing. Yeah, right-click here and say change event. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Great. Just hurry back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, question. Yeah, mine's not working either. Oh, it does that? Yeah. So again, what I've mentioned, just to go over this again, when we're in the collision event between the explorer and the monster, say, there's 2 things we have to be really careful of. First of all, that when we set lives, remember our lives are in the controller, not in the explorer. So we have to make sure to set this to object controller. Okay? So we're subtracting, lives is being taken care of by the controller. So we have to tell the controller, hey, the life variable that you have inside yourself, we want to subtract 1 from that. And then when we go and check it, we don't want to check for the lives on the explorer, we want to check for the lives in the controller. So both of those have to be set to controller. This one and that one. Okay? And then the last thing is make sure that when you in that collision event up here, that you get rid of the other thing. Okay? So it won't keep colliding with you. Okay? So if you've done all those 3 things, then you should be able to not see the message. We still don't have any lives when we lose just 1 life, but we'll fix that in a second. But here, if it hits it, it'll restart. It should restart the room, but then we have no lives still. We still have a problem. See that? Did yours restart? Did it work? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so what's the problem? Well, it's because the controller is being recreated every time we restart the room. What if we don't want the controller we want the controller to only be created once for the whole game, the whole time you're playing it? How can we make that happen? And the answer is, if you go to the controller, see here the controller object, you click this one. This is really weird. It's called persistent. Okay? And what persistent means is this will persist all the way through the room. All the rooms in the game, from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, this controller will always be there. Okay? You're making it persistent. So make sure you go to the controller and click persistent. If we do that, let's see what happens. Okay. Let's see if it works. Please work. Yes. Oh, see? We have 2 lives. Do it again. I'm going to try a different monster, though. This should work with all the monsters. I have 1 life. Yay, 1 life. Now I'm going to try the spider. Spider. Ooh. Well, wait, I still have 1 more life. Why is that?
When I restarted the room, it didn't do that.
It didn't do that?
If you click OK and then go, and it counts the third life.
Yeah, so the problem is, when you have 0 lives, are you dead, is the question. And the answer is no. Right? You still have the life you're on. If you have 0 lives, you should probably only restart the game if you have -1 or less lives. Okay? So when we go and check it in the controller, oh, maybe it's not the controller. No, it's the Explorer when it collides with a monster right here. When we say less than or equal to 0, this should probably should be -1. Okay? Are we completely out of lives? So make sure you set that to -1. Okay? Because when you have 0 lives, doesn't mean you're dead. That means you have your current life, but if you die 1 more time, you're going to be completely out. So lives are kind of a pain. Since GameMaker changed the way lives work in the GameMaker, they've made it really, really hard to keep track of lives correctly. Okay, see, so I lost a life there. I lose another life here. And my hope is I stay alive. I lose this life. What's the expectation? In the games that you've played, when you have 1 life left and you get hit by the monster, is the game over, or do you still have 1 more life? I think you have 1 more life, right? Is that what people expect? No? So this is atypical, or is it typical? And then I finally lose. Okay. I have no more lives. I look up there. I don't have any more lives. I'm out of lives. I'm dead. Right? But my question is this: what do you normally see in a game? I'm not really sure. You get here, right? And if I die 1 more time, am I out of lives? And then I should restart? That's what you think? It should work that way. So it'll do that. The problem with that, though, and this is our problem, is that we don't get a chance to redraw the screen. So it'll still look like we have 1 life left, even though we don't. So we're going to have to figure that out. So I'm going to say 0 here. Okay? So let's just set it back. If that's the normal behavior for most games, I'm not really sure. Okay? But now we're keeping track of lives. Hey, that's cool. But we still have a problem. Do we still have a problem? Let's go to the next room and we'll see if we still have a problem. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next room and we're going to see if our lives survive from going from room to room. Okay, I'm going to lose a life just for fun. Okay, so I lost a life. I have to go get the diamonds again. Okay, and so the question is, I go to the next room. Will I have 2 lives? Will I have 3 lives? Will I have no lives? What do you think? I don't know. Let's try it. I have 2 lives. Why do I have 2 lives? It's persistent, right? I would say, normally I'd say, hey, there's no controller in the room, so I don't have any lives. But wait. Remember, the controller's persistent. So now the lives can live on between rooms. Okay? And then if I lose my life here, then it will behave the same, and we'll restart the room, right? If you have lives left, you restart the room. If you have no lives left, you restart the game after telling them they lost. So I think it works the way we want. Almost. Okay? What's the one thing I don't like? I don't like the fact that when you run out of lives, you lose your last life. What I dislike is right here. Let me show you where. Here's my 3rd life. I lose it, and then boom, it has that you lost. But look, up here, I still have a life. Why am I losing? See? So I don't like that. I want that to go away before this comes up. I'm not sure how to fix that, so I'm going to have to think about that. Okay? But at least lives are working. Now you restart the game. Okay? We got lives working. We got monsters working. Yay. That's enough for today.